Up and rolling, IB Nation Sports Talk, Mailbag Wednesday. How you doing? He's Vince D'Addario. I'm Sean Stiers. Couldn't be better. Just looking forward to seeing your face today.
I appreciate that very much. It's Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. It's a good day, and we got a few more days to go, but always looking forward to 6 o'clock when I get to be on the show with that guy right there.
There you go. There you go. Hit the like button as you file in, if you would, tonight. I was just looking at a little note that I had written over there. Hit the like button if you would tonight on the old YouTube and help it. We're already off to a better start today than
sounded like you had some issues, man.
So wow. We're talking live, so that's a plus.
This is facts.
Vince and I were here on Memorex yesterday, and fortunately we were. So
man, it sounded rough.
I know,
but you know that the whole intranet, you just never know. Sometimes it cooperates, sometimes it doesn't. So
it's very true. That is very true. I'll just start you off with this one, Rabbit Now Chihuahua. What would Vince prefer, good news for Notre Dame or embarrassing news for Michigan?
I feel like this is a question like that goes to my core, and I'm not. I feel like I'm going to be judged either way that I go with this. Notre Dame's had a lot of good news lately, which is fantastic. Obviously, Michigan's good news is that they won the national championship.
True,
and that one hurt. That one stung some. I'm not gonna lie. So I do enjoy a good embarrassing news, though. I enjoy reveling in other people's misery.
He does. Vince is the king of Schadenfreude. I mean, there's no mystery there.
I had to be honest.
He likes to cast those aspersions.
It's not wrong, man. It's not wrong.
I'd say good news for Notre Dame. I'll take good news for Notre Dame. I'm not going to turn down bad news. Not going to turn down bad news for those Block M guys, but I'll take the good news.
You are a much more positive person, I think, than I am as well. So that definitely tracks.
It's hard to say. It's
at least publicly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'll answer this one for DK. Who you got in the Stanley Cup Finals? Well, nobody, DK, because I'm not even a hockey fan, and I know it's not the Stanley Cup Finals. There's no S. It is final.
Ooh.
Stanley Cup Final. Come
DK.
on. Come on, hockey fan. You should know that.
Embarrassing yourself.
I know. Like you give yourself away as an amateur. Come on.
Seriously.
Gonna bring a question on this show like that. All right. Let's see. Salty, as usual, has a ton of questions in here. So let's get to a couple Salties while he's still here. Drayk, Bowen, and the King, Kyngstonn, Viliamu-Asa, are playing starter quality levels this spring. Will both start by mid-season, one at Mike and one at Will? What do you think about that?
That is a very, 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 very good question. I've been very impressed with KVA and what he's been able to do. I've also been impressed with Drayk Bowen. I mean, I wasn't sure where this question was going. I thought it was going to say, is Kyngstonn going to start in front of Drayk? That kind of a thing at Mike. And my response was going to be Notre Dame sees them on the field at the same time moving forward. Now, whether that happens in 24 or not, that's the question on everybody's mind, right? That's the legitimate question is KVA going to be able to get himself to a point where he's able to be at the Will, or he's at the Mike and Drayk is at the Will? I don't think we've ever seen Drayk at the Will. And so that could be a potential pitfall
Right.
for this. You know what I mean? And I think we've seen KVA at the Will, but I'm not 100% sure. I think they've only been at the Mike when we've seen practice. So that means one of them is going to have to learn a brand new position. So that could be difficult for two young guys in the middle of the season as well. So,
and I'm not sure how much we talked about this, I think, at the start of the spring, and I can't remember if it was KVA who talked about it or maybe one of the other guys. Last couple years, we heard about how they brought these guys in and they were cross-training at all the linebacker positions right away.
Right.
And it seemed like we heard that the incoming freshmen were more focusing on whatever their primary position was first this spring. And then, not as much the cross training. So
right.
I think I definitely think that they've got the athletic ability and their play has shown that they both deserve to be out there on the field. I think a lot of it's going to do with how Jack Kaiser does inside, basically. I think that's going to be a big thing because I have seen some stuff on the Champions Lounge about, would you even be that upset if Jack Kaiser were to go to the portal and all this different stuff? It's like,
yes,
he's here for a reason.
Yes, I would be upset about it.
Yeah.
Very upset about it. Actually.
But I mean, he's added the extra muscle so that he can play inside, and we expect him to play inside a lot more this year. And I think that just gives that much more grace period to those younger linebackers. It doesn't mean we're not going to see a lot of Kyngstonn and a lot of Drayk Bowen, but both of them starting side by side mid-season, barring an injury, I don't think that's probably going to happen this year.
Yeah, that would be a low percentage. It would be a low percentage for me just because of all that one of them would have to learn. And that would be very, very complicated, I think, in the middle of a season like that. So I think the goal is more 2025 for that to be the case. And you're going to have a heck of a 1-2 punch if that's the case at linebacker.
DK, I'll eat it a little bit on this one because he said, I'll take a picture of what the Canadians call it, and it's finals. You owe me an apology. We'll meet down the middle on this because I did a quick Google search, and this is on Wikipedia. The Stanley Cup Finals in ice hockey, in parentheses, also known as the Stanley Cup Final among various media. So it is known as both. Again, I'm not a big hockey fan, but I had always heard, and like when you see it on TV, the branding and stuff like that, I had always seen Stanley Cup Final. So we'll call this one a truce. We'll meet in the middle because apparently it's known as both. But
it's like kissing your sister.
That's right. That's what you get for bringing up hockey on this show anyway.
Seriously.
Because you were just trying to be antagonistic to begin
with.
So that's right. Adam wants to know level of concern with the offensive line heading into the season.
I mean, that's the most concerning position group that Notre Dame has right now. So that part is high. I'd say overall, though, there's a lot of talent in that room. I mean, I think they've got a ridiculous amount of offensive linemen. My overall concern of them being like the detriment to the team, like moving forward, they may not be in a perfect place in game one, and they may need some time to gel and that kind of a thing. So my concern level on a scale of 1 to 10 would be maybe a 6.5.
Oh, that high?
Yeah, just because they don't have it figured out yet. They don't even know who their starters are going to be yet. So that's why it's a 6. Once they get their starters set, it goes way down because now those guys can take the time to work together and gel and that kind of stuff. So
together as a unit. Yeah.
I think it's only because that's the only position group that I'm even worried about right now, which is maybe why it's high because I'm micro-focused on it. But at the end of the day, I think the offensive line is going to be just fine. And they've got a coordinator who knows how to scheme around an average to good offensive line, which is what they're going to be. They're going to be a good offensive line. The question is, can they be great? That's the question. Right. And I don't care what 5 you put out there. They're going to be good. Can they be great?
Joe Rudolph had the benefit of having those 2 tackles back last season, plus Zeke Correll, for that matter, at center, and having 3 of those 5 with two of them heading off to the NFL now. That's a pretty big benefit. So it changes quite a bit when you lose those anchors on the outside. I put it at a 4. If I'm going scale of 1 to 10, I'm a little bit lower than you. I really feel like I think the interior positions are going to be just fine because they've got 3 guys vying for 2 guard spots right now. Spindler getting back in the mix after his injury, and then Coogan, who started every game last year, and then Billy Schrouth as well. They're going to be just fine in the middle, and Ashton Craig is fine at center. It's predominantly the right tackle that I'm concerned about, but again, there's so much time between now and then, and I think that there's just like with the quarterbacks and the receivers that we talked about, there are a lot of things that can happen over the course of the summer, even though there's not hands-on work with the coaches and stuff like that. There are things that they can lay out for these guys to work on. And then as soon as Joe Rudolph can get his hands back on them again when training camp starts, I'm not overly concerned, but that the right tackle spot specifically is just the most concerning thing right now. There was another offensive line question that we'll go ahead and throw in here if I can find it here real quickly. Where did it go?
I'm not unstarring stuff. I'm just starring stuff over here, so I don't know.
Oh, here it is. Sam Pendleton playing center, IB grade 80%, he says, in the blue and gold game, sent a few balls well past the quarterback. Will he improve and start at center this season? I'll say no.
Not a chance.
Well, I mean, he can improve his snaps.
Well, he can improve his stand. He's not going to start.
He's not going to be a starter.
Ashton Craig's a really good center, guys. Really good center. Why are we worried about who the backup is? I mean, you can be worried about it, but he's not going to start. He just needs to be serviceable in case of an injury. So, Ashton Craig is your starter. He's really good. That's what you need to worry about.
Yeah. Pendleton needs to get up to speed and get more accurate. And again, that's something that he can do all summer long without having coaches around, is just work on consistency of the snap. Right. I mean, other than that, he looks pretty solid. He still, I think, has to get used to playing there in the middle and all that. We saw a couple different things, with some interior pass rush and stuff like that the last couple of weeks when he's been in there. But the biggest issue for him is just the consistency of the snap. And it's like, you're a center. That's the first job, right?
Right.
Like, that's the primary thing. Get that down, and I think that he can be fine. But again, it's going to be as a backup this year.
Exactly.
It's not 100%.
Like
but he needs to be ready to go if something were to happen.
Well, and he's never played center before, from my knowledge. And so it's going to take some time. I mean, there's a lot going on at center, right? I mean, snapping, stepping, engaging, all of these different things. And a lot of times, and I don't know how the offensive line for Notre Dame does it, but a lot of times the center is calling out, calls, offensive line calls and things like that. So there's a lot going on there for Sam Pendleton. And so he just needs to, again, get the muscle memory working, just like Jason Smith says in the chat here. Get the muscle memory going, just snap hundreds and hundreds of balls, thousands of balls, frankly, over the summer, and he'll get there. I'm not worried about it.
Decaf 18 says he's not sold on the offensive line coach, Joe Rudolph. What do you think of that? I know he's not alone.
That's fair.
More dissenting stuff, I think, recently.
And I don't know that being not sold on him is necessarily a negative comment either. I think, he hasn't been here long enough for an actual hardcore decision on him. Okay, how do these tackles end up doing under his tutelage, right?
Look, we questioned him last year when Pat Coogan ended up out there ahead of Billy Schrouth.
Sure.
Right? How'd that work out? It worked out pretty well, right? And then when Schrouth had his opportunity to come back, when Rocco got hurt, he played pretty well. But it sounded like there were still some things that Billy Schrouth was working on, and that's essentially, like when you talk about consistency and all those different things,
right?
Like, things can change. That's why you keep working at it,
right,
at practice. But, again, big benefit to have 3 of the 5 starters back last year. But the 2 biggest questions were the interior guys, and that worked out just fine. So I'm not saying everything is perfect,
Right.
but at least the first, the first really kind of pivotal, thing that to kind of face Joe Rudolph in his time at Notre Dame worked out really well. And like Ashton Craig, he plugged right in and he's worked out pretty well since he got his opportunity.
And
late
the
in
interior
season.
is all young guys, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's excited about them. And if these tackles end up working out, then Joe Rudolph is fine. Like, let's see what happens to the end of the year with this offensive line. Do they continue to improve? Do they continue to get better? That's coaching. I mean, you can't say it's bad coaching if they continue to get better. So my jury's still out till the end of this year because now he's got kind of his guys out there that he's coached, and let's see how they do as a unit.
Matthew wants to know, will Angeli still be number 2 by the end of the season? If not, what will be the order of the quarterback depth chart?
Oh, the quarterback questions.
Knew it was coming.
If he starts as the number 2, he'll finish as the number 2. Notre Dame doesn't do a whole lot of depth chart jockeying as far as what they hand out to the media every week. Here's what I will say, though. He may be listed as number 2, but if Angeli gets hurt, I would be interested to see what would happen.
That's kind of along the lines of what I was thinking. If Riley Leonard were to go down and then Angeli comes in and something happens to Angeli, are we going to see CJ Carr? And then if CJ Carr comes in and he's out playing Steve Angeli, that could be where your shakeup comes. But I agree with what you're saying. I don't think that Steve Angeli would just, be bumped by CJ Carr prior to something like that happening. It's going to depend on actually getting out there on the field, I think, and things happening there.
Here's how Andrew I think is kind of on point here. He says Angeli will be number 2 if he stays, but Freeman will have a super quick hook. I tend to agree with that. Now, does Riley get hurt and they're playing against Miami of Ohio or somebody like that? You roll with Angeli. He's the guy, whatever.
Of course.
If it's the middle of the season, things are on the line. I think Angeli's still your number 2, but CJ Carr is getting a heck of a lot of reps with the ones ready to go, and I think it would be a quick hook for Angeli. If he goes out there and he tries to press and he tries to do some of the things that he was doing in the blue gold game, I think it would be a very quick hook, and I think CJ would get the call at that point.
Yeah. Chief Brody, I was about to call you out here because first he said this, Kenny will pass CJ in fall camp. But then he quickly said, sorry, stupid comment. I meant Angeli. So he's saying Minchey's going to pass Angeli in fall camp.
I mean, listen, it's possible. It would not overly surprise me. What would surprise me is if the coaches actually said that out loud. Like, it may be obvious to everybody that's inside practice on a day-to-day basis. I just don't know that if all 4 of these guys are here in the fall, and I still think that's an if at this point. If all 4 of them are still here in the fall, I still think that they keep Angeli at number 2. I just don't know that that's a real solid, number 2 situation.
I'll also be curious once Riley Leonard gets out there, and we know that Riley Leonard is going to run the football, how much that pushes Kenny Minchey, potentially, his running ability compared to Angeli, who has 0. Like if you're going scale of 1 to 10, Minchey's like what? Maybe a 7.5, 8, where Angeli is probably a 2, something like that. And then Riley Leonard is like an 8, 9 range,
right?
Maybe even a 10. I don't know. But so I'll be curious in this Mike Denbrock offense, potentially how much that would help a guy like Kenny Minchey as they battle for those depth chart spots and playing time and stuff, potential playing time.
I know what the depth chart would be in my head, and there's a lot of people out there that wouldn't like it. So there you go.
I'm shocked, Vince.
I know.
I'm shocked that a lot of people wouldn't like
it. Based on our analytics, I'm not shocked at all.
Draft question. Andrew.
Oh, boy.
What do you think the odds are Estime ends up the first running back off the board?
This is a question for Ryan, obviously, because he's the draft Nick. Let's see here. He did put Ryan Roberts 51 minutes ago, put out his final top 25 big board for the 24 NFL draft. So I'm going to go off of that.
Okay.
And I'm going to see if he has any running backs even listed on.
I was going to say final 25. I would doubt it.
There's not.
Estime is considered, I think, the best I've seen him ranked in the run, in terms of the rest of the running backs is around sixth or seventh. So I just don't see it. I think that teams are going to, stick pretty closely to their boards. Once you get about three or four of those running backs off the board, probably in the second round, then I think that Audric Estime comes into play, because I think that next group, including Audric Estime, are all ranked relatively similarly. I don't, it's like, again, it comes down to, do you want a big back or not? That's going to play into it.
Pro Football Focus does not have him in the top 10.
Top 10 of running backs?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Interesting.
So there's that. That was the first one that came up on the old Google search.
Yeah. I think he's got a good chance to get drafted by late Friday night in the third round.
Sure. And he's going to be, he will be, it says Estime is going to be a bargain. There's no doubt about it. Whatever team he goes to is going to be very, very happy with where they drafted him and what his value ends up being. No doubt about it.
Andrew says he ran a super slow 40. He ran a relatively slow 40 at the combine, but he ran a very good 40, 4.58 at pro day. Now,
that's plenty fast enough for a running back, by the way.
That's right. And there were apparently some NFL people at the pro day, me and the guy who covered the Colts were standing side by side. We had him at 4.54, both of us, on ours. And there were apparently other NFL people who had him faster than what his official posted time was as well. So they've all got that logged, for Audric Estime.
Sure.
So
hand times are tough, though. I hand time for track meets all the time. You have to add like 0.14 for a hand time or some ridiculous formula that's out there, But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they've got it, they've got the digital time and all that different kind of stuff. Andre wants to know if we can do a buy, sell, hold show as well. Brian did a buy, sell, hold show today. That's Brian's new thing. So that's
we're not going to steal it from him.
Rapid fire is our thing. The buy, sell, hold is going to be Brian's thing.
Right.
So that's why he's doing that.
I mean, maybe we'll go on his show at some point in the afternoon and do it with him.
Right.
But that's his deal. Just like he comes on and sometimes does a rapid fire with us.
Correct. Adam, taking away the assumption that Riley Leonard is the starter, at what point in the offseason do you expect Freeman to name an official starter?
Not in the offseason.
It'll come like first week of training camp.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly when
how it's gone the last few years.
And I don't consider that off season. Like once training camp starts, you're in the season.
You're in the season.
Yeah,
right.
So it's not going to come in the off season. There's no chance of that happening. It'll be during fall camp, just like it is every time there's a quarterback competition. But and I think it'll be fairly early on, to be honest with you, inside of fall camp. You know what I mean? But it won't be anytime before that.
DK says, don't we do the buy, sell, hold every rapid fire? We don't do the hold stuff. I don't even know what hold is.
I don't either. I honestly don't know what it is either.
But he did a whole show called buy, sell, hold today.
Yes.
So
that's like his thing for now, or his new thing. Yeah. And I don't know what it is either. I wanted to watch it today, but I was too busy working with some.
Yeah, let's not get into semantics over. We both have mailbag shows and this and that. Brian wanted a new thing for his show. And so I'm not going to rip off because he's told me before that he would like to do, like a rapid fire thing on his show, but we do rapid fire. So we're not going to steal each other's stuff. Like there's a difference between a mailbag and like concept shows.
Correct.
Guess, right?
Yes.
So
we are our own entity up here at 6:00. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Leave us alone.
Come on. Jeez.
Leave Brian alone.
Joe wants to know which position group we're most excited for next year.
Well, I'm an offensive guy, so I'm staying on the offense. It's the wide receivers. I think there's some dynamic playmakers in that group, man. And I think they've got somebody that can get them the football I'm very excited to see the wide receivers make plays.
Ditto. That's it. I mean, already looks head and shoulders better than the wide receiver room that we had last year. And
how many of those guys were out for the blue gold game too? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, a bunch. So this is going to be awesome.
It's going to look a lot different. Salty says Vegas currently has the over-under set for 10.5 wins for Notre Dame, excluding playoff games. Will they hit the over?
Man, that's actually, like, in the past, the number for Notre Dame's regular season wins has been ridiculous. And it's been an easy take at the over. 10.5. Vegas is actually on point, I think, at this rate. That's tough. That is tough. I would take the over because I think this team is that good. And I think they're a playoff team. And in order to be a playoff team, I think they got to be 11-1. And so I would take the over and pray that nobody gets hurt.
Pray that nobody gets hurt. Okay. I just think that this schedule, if you're like, you start off at 10 wins, basically. And then are you going to get one of the other two?
You're going to get one more?
Yeah. Exactly. So to me, it's an easy over. And if they don't get over, then
something happened. Something drastic happened if they don't get the over. I will say that. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Like if this was last year, that's a completely different question. But the over under was a lot lower last year.
Like 8.5
but
last year.
With the defense that Notre Dame has, with the quarterback that they have, what we just talked about,
the coordinators,
everything,
all of it, just
check it all off. And let's not forget, like Denbrock's offense led the nation last year. Notre Dame's offense was still fifth.
Yeah,
fifth in scoring.
Right, and everybody hated it. By the way,
right, and everybody hated it. Now, granted, I mean there were legit reasons because you scored 1 million points against a bunch of nobodies.
And you
couldn't score against the better teams. Right,
the big games.
But Mike Denbrock should be able to solve that.
Right,
I think.
Can you imagine? Just imagine, if you will, after game 1, Notre Dame goes down to College Station. Let's say they put up 37 points. Okay. If they put up 37 points, they win by 3 touchdowns, first of all. That's what I will say, okay? If they do that, can you imagine what the outcry of positivity for Mike Denbrock and I mean, it is going to be, you want to talk about overreaction Monday? Woo, baby. You just wait till that first Monday in September. It is going to be nuts.
Speaking of which, the Irish offense and defense looking very good. Do you believe coaches Golden and Denbrock will stay for 4 years?
I don't know. I believe that Mike Denbrock.
So is that a hold? Like buy, sell, hold?
Touché. I believe Mike Denbrock is probably at his landing spot for a while. I mean, we know that he loves Notre Dame. He's been here 3 times now. He's one of the highest paid coordinators in the country. He doesn't have aspirations, to my knowledge, of being a head coach. I know his family likes it here. I think he's in this for about as long a haul as you can have it. Al Golden, I do not think he'll be here for another 4 years. He's got a big contract, but I do think he has aspirations beyond being a defensive coordinator. And so I think he goes. I think Denbrock stays.
That's kind of what I'm thinking as well. Golden is already 2 years down the road. He might have 2 more years. So that gets him
to 4 total. Sure.
So like if we're talking about 4 total, then okay, like if that qualifies, or are we talking about 4 years from now? Yeah. I tend to, because like Denbrock pretty much said that the first time that we got to talk to him, that like he's not thinking about being a head coach now. Now that could always change if he has another couple of big years and Notre Dame at least gets to the semifinals in a 12-team format and or a championship game or wins something like that, he'll become a hot commodity. And if some big Power 5 school wants to throw a lot of money at him, then that may change his thinking pretty quickly. But barring that, I think I agree with what you're saying. I think Denbrock will be here for at least 4 more years. I think that Golden, kind of where he is in his or what is it, early to mid 50s right now. Like I think that he's been a head coach before, and I think that he could, like that is something, if he gets that opportunity, that he would want to give it another whirl.
Yeah.
Within the next couple of years. Another salty question. CJ Carr may well be QB2 at the season start. For this season, is it more likely that one of the quarterbacks will transfer or all will stay?
This is where I'd like to hold and be like, ask me this in a week when the transfer portal closes. But if they come out and say that CJ is the number 2, then you could see a guy transfer. Or if they,
but they're not going to do that either.
Exactly. So
they're not going to make any proclamations on any of that
right.
kind of stuff.
And they talk all the time about how they're open with the guys, and they show the grades, and they do all of these things. And so it makes me wonder what the thought process is of all 3 guys. And I'm obviously not counting Riley Leonard. He's not transferring. So what is the thought process of these 3 guys? I mean, players also see what they want to see too. And
very true.
They all think that they're winners. They all think that they should be starting. They should have that mentality. That's the kind of mentality that you want, right? And so I would be very curious, with a little truth serum, what each of the 3 of them think about their present and future at Notre Dame and what that looks like. I really would, because I honestly have no idea. No idea.
I know. And like I said, they're not going to, start changing depth charts right now with the transfer portal still open. That's not going to happen. As far as they're concerned, the depth chart right now is the exact same as it was a week ago. So,
yeah, right. I mean, we're getting to the end of the day on Wednesday, and we've only had one transfer announcement, and it wasn't from the offense.
Yeah,
so,
still very odd.
Man,
that we are where we are. I don't know.
Hey, look, when does the portal close? It's coming up, right? It's in the next week or
the
so?
End of it's the end of this month. It's the end of this month.
End of the month?
So,
End of the month is next week.
I think it opened on the 16th and it closes on the 30th.
I
So.
mean, that's next week. So
right.
We're going to have some answers here pretty quick, because none of those 3 are graduates. So they can't jump in the portal after next Tuesday. So by a week from today, we'll have a lot of answers that we can talk about as far as what the roster is going to look like.
Andre says, Vince, what about DB depth?
Oh, because he was asking. I said the only position group I was worried about was O-line. And this is a retort to that.
Gotcha.
And it said DB depth. Is that what it said?
Well, kind of throw this up here, because Rabinal says, next to the offensive line, what other position group concerns you? Don't include kickers. Or punters.
Kicker, punter does.
As of right now, it's a concern.
So that is a concern. But okay, if we're not allowed to say that one. I mean, the DB depth, I guess, concerns me to a degree, but at the same time, it doesn't, because they still have 3, if they're healthy, and that's always an if, but you can say that about any position group. You've got 3 top level corners that can play. So I'm not that worried about it. You got Benjamin Morrison, Christian Gray, and Jaden Mickey. All 3 of those guys are going to play, and they're all going to play at a high level. So I'm not that worried about it. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little Pollyanna-ish when it comes to the DBs, or when it comes to the corners, but I'm really okay with where they're at.
Yeah, we talked a lot about with the Micah Bell transfer portal announcement. We talked a lot about that yesterday, and the DB depth concerns me just because of where they are. They've got 4 scholarship guys right now, and that includes an injured Benjamin Morrison, whose status for the season we don't know because of the injury. So you have 3 healthy guys. You obviously have 2 freshmen coming in, but that's the one that concerns me because of the depth. I think the guys at the top can all play, but it's the depth that concerns me, because you're an injury away from like grabbing Bo Collins and saying, have you ever played cornerback before? Go over there and do a Troy Brown for it. Right.
That's
That's kind of where you are right now. You might be moving some safeties around or so, but I've talked about that though as well, and just kind of thinking through it. Like if you're only able to add, a little bit more depth via the transfer portal, and you do have Hurd coming in this summer, a Don Schuler, not perfect because he is still young, but he had a pretty good spring.
Yeah.
We saw him do some good things. And obviously you have Xavier Watts back there, and you've got, Minnick and Talich and those, like maybe you do see, a third safety more often if you have to, and that kind of stuff. I think that is much more in a position of strength where you could see some three safety stuff anyway, because of how some of those guys have played this spring, if that holds up.
Because my thought process is this. I'm looking at starters. Yes, backups are important. I get it. But like right now, the starting offensive line is not set. The starting DBs are, and they're high level. They're high talent guys. The starting offensive line is not set. So that's why my worry is more towards the offensive line. I'm worried where you don't know who the starters are going to be. That worries me.
Yeah. Who are your offensive position players? Andre wants to know. Okay, so you got to name 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back, 1 quarterback. That's basically 11 personnel.
11 personnel,
right there. Yeah.
And you're never going to have an offense with just those guys, out there the entire time. It's not high school. So you do have to have depth. But I'll play the game, Andre, because I like you. So my starting wide receivers would be Bo Collins, Jaden Greathouse, and Faison. Those would be my 3.
That would be mine.
And then I would have Jeremiah Love as my running back. Yep. I would have
Raritan or Mitchell.
Raritan. Yep. Raritan as because I'm not sure when Mitchell's coming back. So this would be for game 1. Mitchell would start over Raritan if he was 100% healthy, but I'm going to go with Raritan and then obviously Riley Leonard.
Yep. Mine too. I don't need to add anything to that.
Beautiful.
Thinking exactly the same.
Yeah, baby.
Whoa. Did some kind of weird click there. You think Rocco will end up starting guard, him and Jagasaw on it would actually be the left side. It'd be very scary. Side. Yes.
Yeah, it would be, and it was during the blue gold game. Him, Craig, those 2 plus Ashton Craig were all on the gold team, and they were moving people. And it was fun to watch. Rocco was the best offensive lineman in the blue gold game. Like he dominated in the run game. And so, yes, I do think he will secure the left guard spot with Jagasaw on the left. And
I think so as well. I think that Rocco is going to end up being a starter once again. And again, you got 3 guys battling for those 2 spots, and you're going to have a very good third guy as, sort of a swing guy who will I'm sure they'll find a way to get him some reps somehow, somewhere along the line.
Sure.
But you're going to have a very good third guy no matter what.
Absolutely.
Decaf, did you see the drawings of the new Bears stadium? We were actually sharing that today.
First of all, it's amazing what they can do with computers. It looked like a video, like an actual video of a real life situation. There was a lot to like. Now, I haven't had a chance to really dive into it, but I kind of like the fact that they're saving like the skeleton of Soldier Field. They're like saving the columns, the iconic columns of Soldier Field, and they're saving like the grass area where the field is. And they're going to turn it into like a community space. And apparently they're going to have like a baseball field, which is a little weird. Mm-hmm. And some other stuff like that. I like that concept of, some green space, and they're kind of turning it into like just this whole area. Right.
Yeah.
Then of course the stadium itself just looks like something out of a futuristic novel. It looks unbelievable. And it's going to have a roof so they can host basketball and they can host concerts and, all the stuff. Right. Yep. And that's the whole point. Being a fan of Chicago sports, we're not used to like futuristic, nice stuff. Like that's not how, like the nicest thing that
they tried something futuristic and nice and totally ruined.
It looked ugly as all get out with Soldier Field. Yeah. The nicest thing that we have to look at is what they call a ballpark on the south side. Like they tried to make that like a a nice modern, and that was a disaster too.
Messed that up too, yeah.
I mean, so having this as like, hosting Super Bowls and all of that, it's like, it looks really nice in fake videos. I will say that. I mean, they did their homework on it, and I do like the fact that they're staying in the city too. I do like that.
I'm sure you do. A lot of people are attached to that for some reason. It's at least closer to South Bend if you actually want to go to a game than it would be
by like an hour.
If you're out in Arlington Heights.
I mean,
it'd take a lot longer to get out there if it was in the suburbs. But
yeah,
people asking about parking. Like right now, there's a parking garage that is under the current Soldier Field.
Right.
And based on the renderings that they put out today, there was no visible parking. So I imagine they'll either keep what's underground right now and maybe add another one, or just, I imagine that there'll be an underground parking garage still. But
yeah, I would imagine.
Like when Jesse and I went, I've only been to one Bears. The one time that you and I went to that Notre Dame Miami game, we got lost in the parking garage. We did a Seinfeld, afterwards. Literally took us an hour because we forgot to write down, where we were, and like brutal. Every corner looks the same. Could not tell. We just wandered around for hours. We weren't the only ones,
along with everybody else in the media. It felt like too.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
So that's the only time I've been in that parking garage. Jesse and I went to a Cowboys-Bears game there a few years ago, and we did the, you park on the other side of Lakeshore, like in somebody's parking lot, and then you walk. We probably walked 3/4 of a mile or something like that. You actually go underneath Lakeshore on the walkway.
See, I went to the Bears-Lions game this past year with my father-in-law, and we parked. It was, like Panda parking or whatever it is. It's like personal parking. And then we walked, and it was a footbridge that went over Lakeshore Drive. So
we took
same
that
idea.
Coming out.
Okay.
When we were leaving, we walked over that, but when we were coming in, we did the under. So I guess we did both. Yeah.
Which was fine. Like, it was no big deal. You know what I mean? It was very crowded leaving. I mean, it was a sea of people trying to get over that footbridge. And so it took a little bit of time, but you're either in line on the footbridge to get to your car, or you're in your car in a line to get out of the parking garage. So either way, it's going to take a while. I mean, you got a lot of people in one very confined area trying to disperse. And that's the one bad part about where the Bears Stadium is you're literally waterlocked, right? I mean, there's only one way in and out. And so it makes it very, very difficult from a crowd control standpoint. That's for sure.
Yep, that's true. Well, Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
I've been waiting for this all day. Got some good stuff tonight.
All right. Here we go. Keeping the expectations high. So we've spent a lot of time, of course, the last couple of weeks talking about freshman Irish quarterback CJ Carr. This is Notre Dame quarterbacks coach Gino Guli sharing some thoughts on Carr's competitiveness.
Well, I got out on the basketball court with him, and I really saw it then. Like, he was guarding me, and I was like, all right, he'll just kind of sag off and play off. But, like, he tried to body me up, and I was like, I kind of liked it. Like, all right. Because I didn't know what to kind of expect of him out there. But he's definitely competitive. He comes from a household which is him and his brother, and those two, I'm sure, went at it. And that was the moment for me where I was like, all right, yeah, this dude's competitive because he was going at me.
Did you get some buckets on him at least?
You have to ask him. I don't remember.
All right, so that's Gino Guli. Vince, scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think that intangible is?
74. It's incredibly important. If you want to be a high-level quarterback, you better think that you are a high-level quarterback and that you're competitive and that, you bring the swagger and all of that. Like, I don't want a meek quarterback running my team. I don't want that as a coach. I don't want that as a fan. I don't want that at all. I want a guy who knows that he's the best dang player on the field, and he's going to show it to you every single time. So I love it.
I think especially in sports, in other facets of life as well, that competitive streak is probably the most important intangible that there is. You hate to lose at anything. And,
Yes.
like he's talking about, they're out there playing basketball, and he's playing basketball with his position coach, but he's not giving him an inch, he's coming at him, whatever it is, and like people used to ask me why Muffet McGraw was such a great head coach. And it started with her competitiveness. Like you would see it. It didn't matter what she did, like if it was the crossword puzzle or, whatever it happened to be, I think it just starts and finishes with the competitiveness. And, like look at a guy like Tom Brady. You think he's not one of the most competitive people in the world? You look at a guy like Michael Jordan, like, watching, we talked about, the Last Dance last week, guys like that who manufacture things in their head, to find a reason to come at you. So, again, I think it's the most important intangible that there is that competitive streak.
Love it.
Someone did a mock-up of an all-black Notre Dame uniform with gold numbers. They shared it on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Somebody shared it on the Champions Lounge the other day.
Oh, did they?
As well. Do you buy or sell Notre Dame using a black alternate uniform color scheme?
I am one of the most traditional people out there. I'm the get off my lawn guy. I'm the, history matters guy. Like, that's me. But I like a good black uniform, man. I gotta say, and the mock-up that they did was actually pretty sweet looking, to be honest with you. I dug it. I thought it was really cool. I thought the gold helmet really stuck out, from it because of the black. But then the accents I thought were good. It was a win, man. It was a win for me. I liked it. I buy it.
I probably, considering they did those Yankee abomination pinstripe uniforms when they played at Yankee Stadium, like considering they've already done that, I could see like this black scheme for a Shamrock Series game.
Sure.
That's it though.
Sure.
Like that would be what it, like it was probably in the 90s, wasn't it? When like everyone decided they needed a black alternate uniform, and everyone, tried to adopt black into their uniforms and all that different kind of stuff, because it made you tough and whatever else. So in general, like, did it look horrible? No. But at the same time, I wasn't a big fan of like thinking about Notre Dame wearing a black, like an all black monochromatic uniform. So in general, I'm selling. If they decided they wanted to do it for a Shamrock Series game, okay, one-off situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying that should be like their new home look, but I do think
I wasn't. Yeah,
it's a cool.
I don't think
one time
a
year. Yeah, it's a cool one time a year thing. I'd be okay with it. And Anthony's saying black and gold are Steelers colors. It's a different kind of gold, man. Like completely different kind of.
Well, and didn't they use a green? Gold. Like it was like a gold.
It was green.
Yeah, it was like
green.
A green trim or something like that.
It
was completely different looking than any, like Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wade, like
especially because you have like like the shiny gold helmet still and all that.
Right. You got no Steelers vibes from the particular mock-up that they did that I saw on Twitter, and obviously that's on the board as well. No that's the last thing I would have thought of.
Yeah, me too. Like, it did not remind me of the Steelers at all.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank. Notre Dame women's basketball player KK Bransford pulling her name out of the transfer portal and staying at Notre Dame is blank.
Great decision. I don't know if she put her name out there, maybe didn't get the teams that she wanted, or maybe Niel recruited her back. I don't know what the situation of the backstory is, but it just makes Notre Dame's roster that much stronger. And you don't have to go to the portal for somebody to replace her because she already knows the Notre Dame culture and she's a good player. I assume a good person. I don't know the answer to that, but if you are, it's, I don't want this to sound negative because it's not intended to be that way, but better the devil you know than the devil you don't. You know what I mean? And I don't mean she's a devil, but it's like Notre Dame knows who she is. The roster knows who she is. Keep her around, man. Like I like it as opposed to bringing in a transfer for her spot.
For sure. And like for what you started off, just from a pure pragmatic number standpoint, it's one less spot that they need to go out and fill in the transfer portal. All the things that you said, she's a player that they know, a player that they trust, really a glue type player, who can do a lot of different things. She's done a ton of different things for them the last couple of years. Like you go back to the Tennessee game when they were on the road, she came through clutch against Tennessee in that game. And that was a game when Sonia Citron was out by that point already, but they picked up a road win largely because of, what she was able to give them in that game, and, like you said, good, great teammate, good defender, all those different things. So I just think that it makes a lot of sense. And I think that it's great that it ended up working out the way that it did, because not everyone is willing to pull, their names back out once they go in. And with her, it's 7 players, 8 with Kylie Watson, 9 when you add Kate Koval, the incoming freshman next year. And, I know that they've been hosting some transfer portal players of their own, so they're getting closer. And then, I don't know if you saw some of the video that they posted on social media the other day for all the, how are Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo going to play together people. They've got some video of Olivia finding Hannah down in the corner. They've got video of Hannah finding Olivia down in the corner. They're working together, 2-person game there. I think it's all pretty exciting, and KK Bransford, again, being the kind of glue player that she is, it's just, like that, one more really kind of essential piece that could get overlooked, but I think that she'll be a big part of their success next year.
Absolutely.
Fill in the blank. It's blank that the Heisman Trust has decided to give Reggie Bush his 2005 Heisman Trophy back.
I have been actually a little bit surprised about how positive people have been about this particular situation. Look, maybe it's because it's USC. Maybe it's because my job is literally to make people follow the rules. But he broke the rules. Yes, the rules have changed now, but they weren't changed back then, and he blatantly broke the rules. Now, was he the best player in college football at the time? Yep, yes. No doubt about it. Absolutely. But they deemed because he broke rules that he got the trophy taken away. I'm sorry. I don't think he should have gotten it back. He broke the rules. I don't like the revisionist history of it. Yeah, okay, well, the rules are changed now, so let's go back. Like, are we going to go back and somehow change the death penalty for the team in Dallas? Help me out.
SMU.
Yeah. You're going to take that away now that paying players is okay because that's what they were doing? Like, I don't like it. I don't like it. I think he deserved to have it taken and it deserved to be away.
You were a little more down the middle on this than I thought that you were, I thought you were, just going to come out, full petty Vince, and just, I don't think that it ever should have been taken away from him to begin with, because it's the Heisman Trophy. For one, they're not affiliated with the NCAA. There's a difference between an NCAA violation and whatever the Heisman Trophy decided this was. Look at O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was found guilty in a civil court. Was his Heisman Trophy ever taken away from him? No, because, he got the Heisman Trophy for what he did on the field. And so I don't think the Heisman should have been taken away from him.
And that's a better argument, actually. That's actually a better argument. You know what I mean? Like, should it have been taken away in the first place?
Right.
They took it away because he broke the rules.
I can see your argument about, because I've kind of debated this myself about it was a rule back then, even if it's not a rule right now. Just like plenty of people have gone to jail for marijuana possession, but marijuana is becoming legal in many more states.
Right.
So like you're not going to, like in certain states, it's not a crime, but sure. There are people who, have gone to, so it is, so are you going to, are you going to strike felony charges against all these different people now?
Right.
Because, the marijuana laws have changed. So I get that. But I just don't think that it ever should have been taken away from him to begin with, because it's the Heisman, over here, it's the NCAA over here. They're two completely different things. And I don't think the Heisman Trophy Foundation or the Heisman Trophy Trust should have taken it from him to begin with.
That argument I could actually get on board with, to be perfectly honest with you, because I guarantee you, if you look back at all the Heisman Trophy winners, it's not like a choir of angels. You know what I mean? And there's been guys that have done some stuff. We'll just leave it at that. And none of them got theirs taken away. So I can get on board with your argument that it shouldn't have been taken away in the first place. But the reason they took it away is he broke the rules. Those rules were still rules. So I don't think you should get it back. Like if you're going to take it away, stick to your guns. Like stick to your guns. Maybe they shouldn't have taken it away in the first place. I could be there, but if you did, you got to stick to your guns.
I concur. To an extent.
I totally get it. I totally get it. And like I said, I could be on board with the fact they never should have taken it in the first place. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
rules are rules, baby.
So former Notre Dame commit Dylan Edwards is in the transfer portal. After 1 year with Coach Prime at Colorado, would you buy or sell Edwards at Notre Dame?
This is tough for me. He's a good talent. He is a very good talent. The problem is the running back room at Notre Dame is stacked. I don't know that he'd get on the field. That's the problem. And, if we didn't bring in, the kid from Marshall to be the return specialist, maybe put him back there to return kicks or something like that, I could see that being the case. But again, he'd be down the depth chart there too. So I don't really have anything against him specifically. He decommitted to go play for Dion because he knew Dion. Dion used to be his coach. I don't have an issue with that. I don't know exactly what happened and why he's leaving. I don't know the backstory there. But he's a talented kid. For Notre Dame's roster, I wouldn't take him. It has nothing to do with him as his character or anything like that. I don't have any issue with that. I just think from a roster standpoint, Notre Dame doesn't need any running backs. And they don't need any slot receivers either. He's kind of a hybrid. They don't need any of that right now. So I just don't think it's a fit.
I don't either. But I do, like you said, he had the relationship with Dion, but I think that there was some NIL money that helped lure him to Colorado as well. And I'm sure that there's NIL money that is luring him away from Colorado. And I just once these guys, like Dante Moore and, all these different guys like that who start changing their decisions even before they get to school. And then they're only at school for a year. And now
not even.
Yeah, that's true. He hasn't even been there for a calendar year. He was there for one season. Yeah, good point. I wouldn't want to start getting into that because I just feel like if the price isn't right a year from now, he's just going to bounce to the next place. But you're absolutely right about the talent. I think Notre Dame is in a great place from the talent standpoint as it is. But I think when you add all this other drama on top of it, I just don't think that it's worth the hassle, to even think about bringing someone like that in. Bears have not only the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, they also, of course, have the number 9 pick Thursday night. Should they trade up? Should they trade down? Should they stand pat? And what position should they take with that pick, Vince?
Well, I would jump all the way up to the number 1 and say they should have traded down, but they already kind of made their bet on that one, which I'm still not happy about. I'm still holding out hope that something's going to change between now and 25 hours from now, or 25 hours and 15 minutes from now, because they'll use all 15 minutes to decide that what they've already decided. But at 9, it depends on who's available, to be honest with you. Is it somebody that is absolutely going to help your roster? Or if you're the Bears, because you do have more holes than that, trade down, get some other picks, fill some of those holes. I'm curious to see, what offensive linemen are available at that point. I'm curious to see what wide receivers are available at that point at 9. And if there's nothing that you are just dead set on, then trade down and go get multiples. Trade down in the first round, get a different guy, but then you also have an additional second round pick, and then you can load up a little bit more. I think they should have traded down from the number 1 personally and stockpiled some picks, but again, they didn't ask me.
No, they didn't. I wouldn't trade up because other than Joe Alt, like really.
Right.
I don't think that there's anyone, like from the Bears perspective worth trading up to get. And you're obviously going to have to give up some kind of extra picks if you're going to do that, if you're going to trade up. I know that there's a lot of talk about wide receivers, and I have never been like, especially this high in the draft, I'm not a fan of taking wide receivers. And here's why.
You get that.
I actually wrote something about this a few years ago, and I went back and updated some of the information. So in the last 25 years, there have been nearly 100 wide receivers selected in the first round of the draft. Only 16 of them have gone to the Super Bowl with the team that drafted them. Only 8 of them have won a Super Bowl with the team that drafted them. Nelson Aguilar and Hakeem Nicks are 2 of the guys who have won a Super Bowl with the team that drafted them. Hardly difference makers for the teams that they won the Super Bowls with at the time. Now you do have guys like Reggie Wayne, Plaxico Burress, Antonio Holmes, Mike Evans, but again, it's still a very small group. And so especially that high, I've just always thought if you're drafting that high, you're not a wide receiver away from being a great competitive team. You need a lot, and the Bears need a lot. We all know the Bears need a lot. So wide receiver would not be my choice that high. I think they need to get, to go out and get, perfect world if somehow Joe Alt were to fall to him at number 9, that would be great. Protect the quarterback. That's what I would want to do.
Yeah.
Protect the quarterback.
Well, and here's the other thing, and I believe somebody put it in there, decaf. Bears only have 4 picks in the entire draft. And so I looked it up. They got the 2 1s, they got a 3rd, and they got a 4th. That's it. That's all they've got.
Really?
You need more picks, dog. Like you got some roster holes to fill.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that that's all.
Either.
I didn't realize that they didn't have anything after.
I was about to call decaf's bluff. I was like, there's no way they only have 4 picks. But it is true. I'm on the Bears website, and that's what it says. And so they need more picks, man.
You've already answered Andre's question. He wants to know if you take Caleb Williams or trade down for more picks. Vince would like them to trade down for more picks.
100%. 100%.
That's interesting, though. Like, if they could trade down from number 9, and there are a couple teams, I think, who are going to be interested in trying to get up there potentially.
Yeah.
Into that number 9 spot, like if you could get like an extra 2nd or even an extra 3rd or something like that for moving down a couple of spots. I think that would be really interesting. I was looking at the chat and see if there were questions. It looks like they're just kind of guys, going back and forth on a couple of different things.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
now, speaking of quarterbacks, Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers have the number 5 overall draft pick. Very interesting. I saw this morning. The opening Vegas line on the draft, when the draft opened, opening line in Vegas had the Chargers at 100-1 odds to take a quarterback with that number 5 pick. Yesterday, it was at 15-1. This morning, the odds were down to 6-1 for the Chargers to take a quarterback at number 5. What do you make of all this?
Is JJ McCarthy in or out of LA as far as like where his plane is? That's the only quarterback I see them taking because he's obsessed with JJ McCarthy. If they take a quarterback, it'll be him. And if they do, they will have set back their franchise. There's no. I guess he's not going to be starting because Herbert is there, but that would just be a waste of an.
Well, that's the thing. You've got Justin Herbert. And I just think it's got to be a smokescreen. I think they've got to be sending out disinformation because that's what this last week of the draft is you start getting, all the disinformation out there to try to throw people out. I would be watch them, turn around and do it, but I would be totally shocked if the Chargers took JJ McCarthy or any other quarterback at number 5.
They would be so bad. Such a bad move.
Yeah. It's got to be a smokescreen. I just can't, think about Jim Harbaugh. That's who Jim Harbaugh is, right? It's like throw everybody off the scent and all that.
Yes,
kind of
100%. They've got weapons there in LA. His draft needs to be a good one. It needs to be a nuanced draft, and they could be a contender right away. But if he goes out there and blows it, I kind of hope that's what happens, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Him and his new tattoo.
I'll go ahead and throw this up because Jimmy got in late, and it did start off as a mailbag show. He says he's a bit concerned with the quarterback room. He says Riley's health scares him. Then you've got 3 unproven quarterbacks. Yes, they have talent, but very limited experience.
I mean, sure, Riley's health can scare you. That's fine. He's had 1 injury his entire career, and apparently that scares everybody. But he was injured for spring ball, so I guess that's what scares people. And yeah, you've got 3 unproven quarterbacks. That's what happens. That's why they're called backups. Like they're show me a college football team.
Angeli does have 1 start,
sure.
Right? I mean, he's got a full game under his belt.
But like show me a college football team that has 3 backups that are all experienced. Like that does not that's not realistic. It's not realistic on any team. So, I mean, yeah, they've got unproven guys, but guess what? Everybody's unproven until they do it.
But look, it's also why you let Steve Angeli play the entire second half against Tennessee State last year.
Right.
And
right.
He obviously, again, he started the Sun Bowl. He played the entire Sun Bowl. There were people who wanted to make him the starter a few weeks ago based on the fact that he had a nice Sun Bowl.
Sure.
But he got in a handful of other games as well and got to run the offense in those games. That's why you did that last year.
Absolutely.
To get him at least some experience. Now, he might not be everyone's favorite pick right now, but he's at least got some experience. And, the Riley Leonard's health thing is going to be there all season long. Like I've said,
yeah, right.
Every time he gets tackled, and twisted up a little bit funny, I think everyone's going to hold their breath. It is what it is. I think you're right about the experience, but you don't get nobody gets experience until they get experience.
Right. It's the age-old question when you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
It's like they're looking for somebody with experience. Well, how do I get experience if I can't get a job? Like, you'll get experience when you get in. Like, that doesn't bother me. I'm sorry.
Jameis Winston and Johnny Manziel were both redshirt freshmen when they won Heisman trophies.
Right.
They didn't play. Because they didn't have that redshirt rule, like the 4-game redshirt rule, even when they were playing in college. And they both came out and won Heisman trophies in their first year as starting quarterbacks.
I will say there's a couple of comments in here. I'm going to throw a couple up. JU, he says Angeli won the Sun Bowl and he's the worst of the 4. We good. I mean, I can't say I disagree with that particular comment. I'll just let that one sit there and fester. And then Chief Brody says, can Angeli win 10 games? Yes, absolutely. 100% he can.
Against this schedule, Angeli could.
Exactly. 100%.
I do think he could.
So I think everything's just fine. That quarterback is the least of anybody's worries, folks. I mean, everybody wants to talk about who the backups are. Everything is just fine.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you had such good quarterback play, basically from 2 through 4, with number 1 in a red jersey, kind of watching from behind the play the whole game, the blue gold game. The fact that you had such good quarterback play last week, you should be more encouraged about the quarterback room.
Right.
Concerned about any lack of experience or anything like that.
100%. 100%. This is the best quarterback room that Notre Dame's had that I can remember. 1 through 4. 1 through 4. This is an amazing quarterback room. 1 through 4.
Yeah, Jimmy, we don't know.
You don't know anything, though. Let's be honest. We don't know anything.
That's right.
Billy Shrouth has never been a starter.
But there's some things you don't know. You can't obsess and worry about it. Like, if you are, you're just going to drive yourself nuts for the next 3 months.
Right. So. Micah Gilbert has 0 experience. Cam Williams has 0 experience. Drayk Bowen has 0 experience. KVA has a 0 experience. I was listening to a Notre Dame podcast, and they were talking about how everybody's worried about the quarterbacks, and they're playing well. If it's any other position and it's a young kid who's playing well, people get super excited about it.
Yeah.
But at quarterback, they're freaking out. Like
they don't, because of what TD4ND says. Notre Dame fans don't know what to do with a great quarterback room. Don't know how to react to it.
Right.
It's a great quarterback room.
100%. We don't know anything about a lot of the people that are going to play at Notre Dame this season, but everybody's excited about all of them. be excited about the quarterback room. I'll just say that. Be excited about the entire room.
Mr. Positivity. Mr. Positivity right there, Vince D'Addario.
Just mic drop this sucker and get out of here for me, because that's about as positive as you're going to get.
Thank you for the super chat, guy whose handle what can you tell what that says?
Relly Q. That's
Okay.
usually what we go with.
Realistically, how big of a jump in improvement and production in the wide receiver group can we expect this season?
Massive. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, and as we have noticed many years along the line, I'm terrible at predicting what stats are going to be, and so I'm not even going to. But what I will say is the wide receiver room is light years better than it was last year, even with all the defections and everybody's, hand wringing and everything else about the guys that left. They have a better wide receiver room now than they ever had at any point last year, and it's going to be a massive upgrade. The production will be massive in comparison.
Yes, to all of that. If you asked Vince to actually put numbers on it, he would tell you that everyone's going to have 80 receptions and 1,000 yards.
It's just going to be all Notre Dame guys at the Heisman Trophy ceremony.
Right.
It's just 5 Notre Dame guys.
Riley Leonard's going to pass for 8,000 yards this season.
It's going to be Riley and all of his receivers just sitting there figuring out who's going to win the Heisman.
Let me see. I know there was something else in here. Oh, yes. Chief Brody with the important question.
Ooh.
Cookies or ice cream for dessert tonight? I'm very partial to the ice cream.
Me too.
myself.
I'm an ice cream guy, especially at night. I just love a nice scoop of ice cream in the bowl, watch a little TV, and then that's like the nightcap. Like that's my version of a nightcap. As you can see.
Supersfelt. Salty mentioning the Hard Knocks camera crews appear to be active at Notre Dame. Will there be an Irish Hard Knocks and who'll be profiled? I mean, I think that's the plan,
on Peacock, isn't it? Isn't that what?
Yeah, it's going to be on
happen?
Peacock. They're going to, they announced last year sometime that they're going to do that, and there were a lot more because I even asked like some of the Fighting Irish media guys. I'm like, hey, I've noticed because the way that we've kind of explained this before, the way they do the post-practice media when they bring out assistants and players is downstairs at the Irish Athletic Center. That's where, like the stuff that you see online, that's where they have the TV cameras. So they'll do that, and then they'll go upstairs to where, like the non-TV camera people are, and answer more questions for another 10 or 15 minutes or whatever. And then they'll trade off and stuff like that. Well, Fighting Irish Media had like the boom mics and cameras upstairs, for like where we go, the non-TV people, but that they would have like a camera over here and kind of getting extra stuff up there. So they were definitely following them around, and that's kind of what I was asking what was going on when I was talking to some people during spring, and a lot of it was basically just kind of putting together some kind of some base stuff to get them started for that program.
Let's go.
It's underway.
It's
coming this fall. We'll have to see if we can find out when a debut date is and all that kind of stuff, but it'll be coming. It's going to be are you anxious to see that? Do you want to
I guess you and I have more inside knowledge of what happens on a day-to-day basis at Notre Dame than most people. But I would still watch it because I love Notre Dame as a fan. So I would absolutely still watch it. I don't have HBO, so I never get to watch Hard Knocks. And I love that behind the scene crap. So I'm definitely I'll definitely watch it.
For sure. Brent wants to know over under 3,200 passing yards for Riley Leonard. I'm going well under 3,200.
I think so too. I think
because of the rushing yards. He's going to be close. He's going to be
add them together.
Yeah, he's going to have at least 700 to 800 rushing yards, maybe even pushing 1,000.
Honestly, I hope this is my hope. There are plenty of games where the game should be over by the end of the third quarter, middle of the third quarter. Get whoever the number 2 guy is in. get Riley out because your season hinges on his health. Just like everybody is saying, get him out. Get him out of the game. He doesn't need to be getting hurt in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, like I see Jimmy saying, if he's healthy, he'll go over. We all thought Sam Hartman is more of a passer than Riley Leonard, and Hartman didn't come close to 3,200 yards. And I just think because of Riley Leonard's running ability, he's got to be 3,200. He might be pushing 3,000, but I think it's more likely to be in the 2,900 range, and then anywhere between 700 and 1,000 rushing yards on top of that. That's what I would be banking on.
Cool. I'm not predicting anything because I am always wrong.
You're not allowed to make predictions anymore? Okay.
No, I mean I still will because you'll make me, but they'll all be ridiculous, and people need to just understand that.
Yep. DK says he heard Hard Knocks caught Vince talking smack about kickers.
I got in trouble for talking a little bit too loud in a negative fashion about the kickers in the press box. Now, it wasn't by like a Notre Dame official, but it may or may not have been by our boss. He's like, dude. I'm like, hey, it's right out here in front of us, man. Like, I don't know. Not really saying anything that we're not seeing. But
Josh Lynch says he heard Leah 2 King is visiting. You did. Huh? You did, huh? Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. You want to do a buy, sell, hold show tomorrow?
Ooh. I have a feeling the boss might be upset about that.
Yeah, I know, right? We'll just follow his the next day with our very own. We're going to do a stock up, stock down show. What do you think about that?
Okay. Like where people are trending. All right.
Yeah. I was going through some stuff today. I'll send it to you. See if you want to add anything to it. All right.
Could be fun. That one could be a lot of fun. All right.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Okay. So that's tomorrow's show with our regular rapid fire. And of course, draft night.
That's
tomorrow.
right. We got to make sure we're off by 8 so I can watch the Bears take their franchise back a few steps with their number 1 pick.
Yes. All right. Crank that like button before you leave. We do appreciate it. And of course, subscribe, rate, and review. And we will talk to you later. A lot of great questions today. So thanks for those.
Yeah.
And thanks for all the well-spirited interaction.
It always gets spirited when we talk quarterbacks.
Talk to you later. IB Nation Sports Talk.